In a packed Judge Judy courtroom on what seemed like an ordinary Tuesday morning, a middle-aged woman named Linda Morrison confidently strutted through the doors clutching what appeared to be a legitimate service dog. The small golden retriever wore an official-looking vest with "Service Dog, Do Not Pet" emblazoned across its sides, and Linda held the leash with the practiced air of someone who had done this 1,000 times before. But what Judge Judy discovered in the next 60 seconds would expose a fraud so deep, so calculated, and so offensive to real disabled Americans that it would spark a federal investigation and change service dog laws forever. Before we dive into this incredible case, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love seeing where my viewers are around the world, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss more unbelievable cases like this one. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. The case was supposed to be simple. Linda Morrison versus the city of Sacramento for allegedly harassing her through discriminatory 911 response policies she claimed the city's dispatchers were ignoring her emergency calls because of her disabilities, and she demanded $50,000 in damages for emotional distress. Her lawyer had coached her well. Her paperwork looked legitimate. Her service dog sat quietly beside her chair as the cameras rolled. Judge Judy began reading the case details, her sharp eyes scanning the documents when something made her pause. The dog's behavior was wrong. Completely wrong, ma'am, Judge Judy said, her voice cutting through the courtroom like a blade. I've been doing this for 30 years, and that is not a service dog. The courtroom fell dead silent. Linda's confident smile faltered for just a moment before snapping back into place. Your Honor, I have all the documentation right here. Charlie is trained for my severe anxiety and PTSD. Judge Judy's eyes narrowed to laser points. I don't care what your papers say. That animal has no training whatsoever. The tension in the room became suffocating as Linda's face began to flush red, but Judge Judy wasn't finished. She leaned forward, her voice dropping to that deadly calm tone that had terrified fraudsters for decades. More importantly, Linda Morrison, I know exactly who you are. You're the woman who has called 911 over 300 times in the past 2 years for fake emergencies. You're the woman who has defrauded disability services insurance companies, and now you're trying to defraud my courtroom with that untrained pet. Linda's mouth fell open in shock. The bailiff instinctively stepped closer. The audience gasped audibly because no one, absolutely no one, had expected Judge Judy to come out swinging this hard this fast. What Linda Morrison didn't know was that Judge Judy's team had been investigating her for weeks before this case even aired. What she didn't know was that federal agents were already building a case against her massive fraud operation. And what she definitely didn't know was that the evidence Judge Judy was about to reveal would destroy not just her case, but her entire carefully constructed web of lies that had been stealing from real disabled Americans for years. The small courtroom was about to become ground zero for the most explosive service dog fraud case in television history. This confrontation is about to get absolutely wild. Judge Judy is about to expose a fraud so massive it'll shake you to your core. If you want to see this Karen get completely destroyed by America's toughest judge and find out the shocking secret she's been hiding, smash that like button right now and let's watch this fraud get obliterated together. You will not believe what happens next. Why did Judge Judy come out swinging so aggressively against Linda Morrison? What was really at stake in this seemingly simple courtroom case? The answer would horrify every honest American watching. Linda Morrison wasn't just some random woman with a fake service dog. She was the mastermind behind a nationwide fraud network that had been systematically destroying the credibility of real service animals and stealing benefits meant for genuinely disabled veterans and civilians. For the past 3 years, Linda had been running what federal investigators would later call the most sophisticated disability fraud operation in American history. The numbers were staggering and sickening. Linda Morrison had filed over 200 fraudulent disability claims across 17 different states, using dozens of fake identities and medical conditions. She had collected more than $400,000 in illegal disability payments, Medicare fraud, and insurance scams. But the money was just the beginning. Her fake service dog operation had sold over 3,000 counterfeit service dog certifications to people across the country, each one undermining the legitimate need of real disabled Americans who depended on trained service animals to survive their daily lives. Every time someone used one of Linda's fake service dog certifications, it made life harder for people like Marine veteran Robert Chen, who lost both legs in Afghanistan and relied on his genuine service dog Max to navigate crowds and detect his panic attacks. It made life harder for Sarah Williams, a legally blind college student whose real guide dog had been attacked twice by untrained fake service animals whose owners had bought Linda's fraudulent documentation. When businesses and the public lose trust in service dogs because of fraud, real disabled people suffer. They get questioned, harassed and sometimes denied access to places they desperately need to go. But Judge Judy had discovered something even more sinister. Linda Morrison's 911 calls weren't just random harassment of emergency services. They were calculated attacks designed to overwhelm the system and create chaos that she could exploit. She would call 911 claiming her fake service dog was being discriminated against at restaurants, stores, and apartment complexes. When police and paramedics arrived to find no real emergency, it tied up resources that could have been saving actual lives. During one particularly busy weekend, Linda's fake emergency calls contributed to delayed response times for a real heart attack victim who died waiting for an ambulance that was busy, responding to her manufactured crisis. The emotional damage went even deeper. Linda's own family had become casualties of her fraud addiction. Her elderly mother, Rose Morrison, sat in the courtroom gallery that day with tears streaming down her weathered face. Rose had no idea that Linda had been forging her signature on medical documents and using her mother's good credit to apply for fraudulent loans and disability claims. Linda's 2 adult children had already disowned her after discovering she had stolen their identities to create fake medical histories that supported her various scams. Her daughter Jessica hadn't spoken to her in 18 months. Her son Michael had changed his last name to avoid association with his mother's crimes. What made Linda Morrison particularly dangerous was her intelligence and attention to detail. She studied real disabled people to learn how to mimic their conditions. She researched actual service dog training methods to make her fake documentation look authentic. She even attended disability support groups not to help herself, but to gather information she could use to make her lies more convincing. Federal investigators later found notebooks filled with her observations about real disabled people's behaviors, medical equipment, and daily struggles that she exploited to create more believable false identities. The scope of her operation was breathtaking. Linda had created fake websites for non-existent service dog training facilities. She had printed thousands of counterfeit service dog ID cards that looked identical to legitimate ones. She had even hired actors to pose as disabled people in videos she used to sell her fraudulent certifications online. Her network included corrupt doctors who would write fake medical evaluations, dishonest lawyers who helped her file fraudulent lawsuits, and computer hackers who helped her create false digital trails to support her claims. Judge Judy knew all of this before Linda Morrison ever walked into her courtroom. Federal agents had been watching Linda for months, building an airtight case that would not only put her in prison, but dismantle her entire network of fraud. The service dog sitting beside Linda that day wasn't just fake. It was evidence in a federal investigation that could send Linda to prison for 25 years and result in millions of dollars in restitution payments to her victims. The seemingly simple case about 911 harassment was actually the tip of an iceberg that would expose fraud affecting thousands of real disabled Americans across the country. That Judge Judy didn't just accept Linda's forged paperwork. She launched a live courtroom investigation that would become legendary in television history. Bailiff Bailey, Judge Judy commanded, her voice sharp as steel. I want you to examine every piece of documentation this woman has brought into my courtroom. And I mean every single piece. Linda's confident demeanor began cracking as Bailey approached her table, latex gloves snapping on with the precision of a crime scene investigator. The small golden retriever, supposedly trained to detect anxiety attacks, was busy trying to eat a piece of gum off the courtroom floor. Let's start with this service dog certification, Judge Judy announced, holding up what appeared to be an official document. The cameras zoomed in as she examined the paper under the courtroom's bright lights. This certificate claims to be from the American Service Dog Registry in Phoenix, Arizona. Bailey, get Phoenix on the phone right now. The tension in the courtroom was suffocating as Linda's face went pale. Her lawyer whispered urgently in her ear, but Linda shook her head violently, sweat beading on her forehead despite the air conditioning. While Bailey worked the phones, Judge Judy turned her laser focus to the dog itself. Ma'am, command your service dog to perform one of its trained tasks. Linda hesitated, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Charlie, sit. The dog ignored her completely, now sniffing the bailiff's shoes with zero discipline or training. Judge Judy's expression grew darker. That animal has no more training than my neighbor's pet goldfish. The audience began murmuring as the obvious became undeniable. Your Honor, Bailey announced from the phone, Phoenix says they've never heard of Linda Morrison, and they don't issue certificates that look anything like this. Judge Judy's eyes flashed with the fury of justice betrayed, but she wasn't done. Let's examine these medical records next. Linda's hands began trembling as Judge Judy spread her supposed PTSD diagnosis across the bench. This document claims you were treated at Walter Reed Medical Center for combat-related trauma. Ma'am, what branch of the military did you serve in? The question hung in the air like a sword. Linda's mouth worked silently before she whispered, I never served. The courtroom erupted in gasps and angry murmurs. Judge Judy's voice cut through the noise like thunder. You forged military medical records? You stole the trauma of our real veterans? Linda's elderly mother Rose covered her face with her hands, sobbing quietly in the gallery. The shame was overwhelming as Rose realized her daughter had dishonored not just herself, but the memory of Rose's own father, who had died fighting in World War II, but Judge Judy had saved the most devastating evidence for last. Bailey, please show the court what we found in Mrs. Morrison's purse. The bailiff produced a manila folder thick with documents. Inside were blank service dog certificates, fake medical forms with various names pre-filled, and most shocking of all, a handwritten notebook containing detailed observations about real disabled people Linda had studied to perfect her fraud. The notebook included sketches of service dog behaviors, lists of medical symptoms to fake, and even phone numbers of corrupt doctors willing to write false diagnoses for cash. Linda Morrison's carefully constructed house of lies was collapsing in real time, broadcast live to millions of viewers. But Judge Judy wasn't finished exposing the full scope of this woman's betrayal of everything decent Americans held sacred. When Judge Judy demanded to see Linda's actual training records for the fake service dog, something inside Linda Morrison snapped. Her mask of victimhood slipped away, revealing the entitled narcissistic fraudster underneath. This is harassment, Linda shrieked, jumping to her feet so violently that her chair toppled backward. You can't treat me like this. I have rights. I'm calling 911 right now for discrimination and abuse. She fumbled for her phone with shaking hands, completely oblivious to the fact that she was threatening to commit the exact same crime she was being sued for, right in front of millions of television viewers. Judge Judy's response was legendary. Her voice dropped to that deadly calm whisper that had terrified fraudsters for 3 decades. You'll do what in my courtroom? The words hit Linda like physical blows. Judge Judy slowly rose from her bench, her small frame somehow filling the entire courtroom with the power of absolute authority. You're going to call 911 for a fake emergency while being sued for fake 911 calls in my courtroom on national television. Each word was delivered like a prosecutor laying out an airtight case. The audience sat in stunned silence witnessing courtroom history being made, but the universe wasn't finished humiliating Linda Morrison. At that exact moment, her untrained service dog, Charlie, stressed by the shouting and chaos, relieved himself right on the pristine courtroom floor. The smell hit the front rows immediately. Court staff scrambled for cleaning supplies while spectators covered their noses in disgust. Judge Judy pointed at the mess with the fury of divine justice. That is your trained service animal? A dog that can't even control its bowels under pressure? Linda's face turned crimson as the ultimate proof of her fraud literally stank up the courtroom. The bailiff moved swiftly to confiscate Linda's phone before she could dial 911, but Linda's desperation had reached fever pitch. You can't take my phone. This is America. I have constitutional rights. She began screaming about lawsuits and civil rights violations, her voice becoming more shrill and unhinged with each word. Judge Judy watched this meltdown with the cold satisfaction of someone who had seen this exact pattern hundreds of times before. Fraudsters always revealed their true nature when cornered. Ma'am, Judge Judy said with icy calm, the only constitutional right you're about to exercise is the right to remain silent, because every word coming out of your mouth is being recorded and will be used as evidence in your federal trial. Security guards positioned themselves near Linda as she continued her tantrum, completely unaware that her public breakdown was sealing her fate. The small courtroom had become a pressure cooker, and Linda Morrison was about to discover that Judge Judy's investigation had only scratched the surface of the evidence, waiting to destroy her. Judge Judy wasn't satisfied with exposing just the fake service dog. She ordered a live examination of Linda's phone records and social media accounts that would shock America to its core. Bailiff, connect that laptop to the courtroom monitors. I want everyone to see what Mrs. Morrison has really been doing. Within minutes, Linda's Facebook profile filled the massive screens around the courtroom. What appeared next made the audience gasp in horror and disgust. Screenshot after screenshot revealed Linda's true nature. Posts mocking wheelchair users with captions like, easy parking everywhere I go. Pictures of her laughing while pretending to limp with a fake cane. Videos of her teaching other fraudsters how to fake seizures and panic attacks for disability benefits. Most sickening of all were her posts in private Facebook groups where she bragged about gaming the system and referred to real disabled veterans as suckers who actually earned their benefits the hard way. But the evidence got worse. Linda's phone contained recordings of over 50 different fake 911 calls, where she used different voices and accents to report non-existent emergencies. She had practiced southern drawls, broken English, and even fake stutters to make her calls seem more believable. Audio recordings played through the courtroom speakers as Linda pretended to be a stroke victim, a car accident victim, and even a mother whose child was supposedly choking. Each fake call had pulled emergency resources away from real crises. The most damning evidence was Linda's detailed business records. She had been selling fake service dog certifications for $300 each, through a sophisticated website that looked completely legitimate. Her customer list included over 3,000 buyers across all 50 states. Email chains showed her coaching customers on how to lie to businesses about their fake service dogs and how to threaten lawsuits when questioned. She had even created fake veterinary records and training certificates using stolen letterheads from real organizations. Judge Judy's voice filled with genuine emotion as she read Linda's private messages aloud. "Listen to this, America." Linda Morrison wrote, "These idiots believe anything if you cry enough and mention PTSD. Real disabled people are so gullible, they actually think I care about their cause." The courtroom fell silent except for the quiet sobbing of Linda's mother and the angry murmurs from real disabled spectators in the gallery. Linda had finally been exposed not just as a fraudster, but as a sociopath who enjoyed victimizing the most vulnerable Americans for profit and entertainment. Judge Judy rose from her bench with the righteous fury of justice itself. "Linda Morrison, in 30 years on this bench, I have never encountered someone so morally bankrupt, so utterly devoid of human decency." Her voice thundered through the courtroom as federal marshals quietly entered through the back doors. "You didn't just steal money. You stole dignity from disabled veterans who sacrificed everything for this country. You stole trust from businesses trying to accommodate real service dogs. You stole resources from emergency services that save actual lives." Linda's final desperate plea was pathetic. "But, Your Honor, I have severe anxiety. I need help." Judge Judy's response became legendary. "The only thing you should be anxious about is spending the next 25 years in federal prison." The gavel slammed down with the force of divine judgment. "I find you guilty of fraud, perjury, and contempt of court. I'm referring your case to federal prosecutors for service dog fraud, disability fraud, and 911 abuse. Bailiff, place Mrs. Morrison under arrest." The handcuffs clicked as Linda was led away sobbing. The courtroom erupted in applause as her fake service dog was gently taken by animal control officers to find a real loving home. Justice had been served with Judge Judy's legendary precision. Judge Judy just delivered the most savage takedown in courtroom history. If this gave you chills and restored your faith in justice, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell because America needs more heroes like Judge Judy exposing these fraudsters. The story didn't end with Linda Morrison's arrest. It began a wave of justice that would restore faith in the system for millions of Americans. Within hours of the episode airing, Linda's courtroom breakdown became the most watched clip in Judge Judy's history, viewed over 50 million times in the first week alone. But more importantly, it sparked a movement that would protect real disabled Americans for years to come. The first hero to emerge from Linda's downfall was Marine veteran Robert Chen, whose genuine service dog Max had been attacked twice by fake service animals. Robert watched Judge Judy's takedown from his hospital bed, where he was recovering from PTSD episodes triggered by encounters with fraudulent service dogs. Tears streamed down his face as he called his wife. "Someone finally stood up for us," he whispered. "Someone finally told the truth." Robert's story spread across veteran networks, inspiring hundreds of real disabled service members to share their own experiences with service dog fraud. Judge Judy received thousands of letters from grateful Americans, but one letter changed everything. It came from 8-year-old Emma Rodriguez, a legally blind girl whose guide dog Bella had been denied access to restaurants because business owners had lost trust due to fake service dogs. Emma's letter, written in Braille and translated by her teacher, simply said, "Thank you for helping Bella and me go to McDonald's again." Judge Judy kept that letter framed on her desk for the rest of her career. Linda's fake service dog Charlie found the happy ending he deserved. The golden retriever was adopted by the Peterson family, whose 10-year-old daughter Sarah had been saving money for years to get a pet. Charlie flourished under proper training and genuine love, becoming a therapy dog at children's hospitals. The irony was beautiful. Linda's tool of deception became an instrument of real healing and joy. The federal investigation triggered by Judge Judy's episode dismantled Linda's entire fraud network. 18 co-conspirators across 12 states were arrested. The corrupt doctors who wrote fake diagnoses lost their medical licenses. The website selling fraudulent certificates was shut down permanently. Over $4 million in stolen disability benefits were recovered and returned to legitimate programs. Most importantly, new federal legislation was passed requiring stricter verification for service dog certifications, protecting both businesses and real disabled Americans. Linda Morrison's mother Rose found peace in an unexpected way. After her daughter's conviction, Rose began volunteering at the local Veterans Affairs Hospital, reading to blind veterans and helping with their genuine service dogs. "I can't undo what Linda did," Rose said through tears, "but I can honor the people she hurt." Rose's quiet dignity touched everyone who met her, proving that goodness could emerge even from the darkest family shame. 6 months after the episode aired, Judge Judy was invited to Walter Reed Medical Center to meet with real disabled veterans and their service dogs. The ceremony was private, with no cameras or publicity. Judge Judy sat quietly in a circle with 20 veterans, listening to their stories and petting their genuine service animals. "You didn't just expose one fraud," said veteran Maria Gonzalez, whose PTSD service dog Scout had been harassed countless times by people doubting his legitimacy. "You gave us our dignity back." The most powerful moment came when Judge Judy met Tommy Williams, a double amputee whose service dog Rex helped him navigate daily life. Tommy handed Judge Judy a small American flag. "This belonged to my buddy who died in Afghanistan," he said. "He always said justice wasn't about getting even. It was about protecting the people who can't protect themselves. You protected us." Judge Judy, who rarely showed emotion publicly, wiped tears from her eyes as she accepted the flag. Today, Linda Morrison serves a 23-year federal sentence. Her fraud operation has been completely dismantled. But her legacy isn't the damage she caused. It's the justice that emerged from her exposure. Judge Judy's courage to investigate, confront, and expose this fraud didn't just punish one criminal. It protected thousands of real disabled Americans and restored trust in the service dog program that saves lives every single day. This story proves that truth and justice still matter in America. Judge Judy didn't just expose fraud. She protected every genuine disabled American who depends on real service dogs to survive. If this story moved you, if it made you angry about fraud but proud of our justice system, please like this video and share it with everyone you know. Subscribe for more stories that restore your faith in doing what's right. Tell us in the comments, what was your favorite moment of Judge Judy's legendary takedown? Because heroes like Judge Judy remind us that standing up for truth and protecting the vulnerable never goes out of style. Justice isn't just a word. It's a promise we keep to each other. God bless Judge Judy, God bless our real disabled heroes, and God bless America.